Yay.
Welcome, Aaron. Do
Thank you, Miss Leela.
you have anything specific you want to talk about or
Oh, everything.
everything? God,
Yeah, like how to act in the world, you know?
I'm still
It's
figuring
like,
that one out.
yeah, well, I don't know. It's like I feel like there's two phases of like meditative and like meditation and spiritual life. It's like phase one is like you contact the like undifferentiated ocean of like awareness and bliss kind of thing. You're like, wow, you have like kind of absorbing mystical experiences while you're sitting still with your eyes closed. And that can be years to even get to that point. And then it's like the now what phase where for me, like I kind of like did that for like years where it was like that was like the goal. And I'd like try to get there every morning, and every night. And then it's like, what are we doing here? What do we take directions from? Right? Like which one of our inner sometimes like in meditation and stuff, it's like the voices get more pronounced. It's like you get more aware of a lot of the inner currents that are running.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, so now I have to like now I just ate breakfast and I have a day to deal with. And like there's so many, I'm aware of so many different streams of my own mind and I don't know which ones to accept and which ones to reject and which ones to grab onto and follow and which ones to let play out but ignore and which ones to turn away from.
Yeah. And then if you notice, there's the one that pretends to stand apart from all those other voices, and that's another voice. See what I mean?
Hmm.
Like the
So
one that's
that's what I've been.
witnessing, the one that's witnessing. It's like, look at all these streams and look at all these like different personalities seemingly in my head. Um, like the voice of the child or whatever. And then if you notice that one too is also another stream or voice just expressing.
Right, so right
Yeah.
so that's sort of like a stage in progress where it's like the witness, and then you sort of like get this thing where there's this witness like you're talking and then you realize that it's sort of conceptualized entity like all of the other ones, all of
Mhm.
the other thoughts, and then you back up from that also. And it's like if you back up far enough you fall off the cliff and you're just kind of like in that place again, standing in the kitchen with like your coffee and your cake, and you're like, like nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I want to take a bite of cake. And you're like, oh, do I ignore that conceptualization or do I take a bite of cake? And then it's like, oh, you have stuff to do today. And it's like, it's like, I can't, I don't know how to deal with that.
So
Like,
there can be a state that seems very expanded and very like everything is just noticed and everything is okay, right? So that's a state. It can be like a surreal sort of presence sort of state. You know what I mean? But that state is not um the goal because this is all states. So
so I,
there's a thought that says there's a state that's the pinnacle state, the one that I must reach, the one that means something about me and what this is. And that is seen for what it is, which is just an empty thought. And that's the description of what you said, which is getting behind that witness, like getting behind it.
right. So, but I'm not at a place where my sort of no mind, my mindless state, when all thoughts are seen as transparent and there's kind of an okayness,
Mhm.
then what the hell do I do, man?
So your mind, when it's like wondering what to do today and what's the best thought stream to sort of notice or whatever. And my mind are basically identical. I go through the same thing as you do.
Why doesn't it bother you?
Huh?
But why doesn't it bother you?
because I can see that it's completely futile, that nothing can be done about it, you know. And
But
that,
isn't there some sense, I'm sorry to
no,
interrupt,
no, no, go ahead, go
is
ahead.
isn't there some sense of accepting or grabbing onto or choosing a directive that arises from the mind? And there's some sense of like, I have the ability to very firmly say absolutely not to every single thought. Like I could do that.
Yeah,
And then there's times when like I see, oh, there's the thought and it seems reasonable enough, and I'll allow it to be followed. And although it's a little bit of a coming down from like the heightened state and it's a slippery slope, I pretty much end up in the regular everyday mind pretty soon after I allow that to happen. But I feel that there's something in me that could just stand there like a little child and refuse every single thought.
it feels that way. Yeah, and the mind is like a labyrinth of different states and different voices and things that seem to be preferred over other things. It's so easy to get lost in. And there's another voice that's trying to figure it out like a puzzle. You know what I mean? There can be that one, the one that's asking, what does this mean? You know what I mean? Like, what am I not grasping from this? Or right now I feel in control when earlier there was no me to control anything, you know. And and it's trying to strategize. And what can happen is the interest in that strategic voice falls away and it's allowed to do whatever it wants to do. Just like it's just noticed that it's automatic. All of it's so automatic and spontaneous. And that's terrifying.
Interesting
We don't necessarily
strategicist.
want to see that, you know.
Well, because then what the hell's gonna happen? It's like I feel like anytime I do anything, with very rare exceptions, it feels like it's a concession to like, well, I got to do something, and like I'll just allow this mind thought to take control of the body and go in that direction. But I don't want to live that way because I don't fundamentally believe in any mind thought as an authority.
Yeah.
Like I want the spontaneous generation of like, karmaless action, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you mean. And I completely remember what it was like to be just like,
Good. So get me past.
this is like a desperation, you know. You just want to get out of your own way, you know. I
Yeah, and
totally
it's like, what
get
the hell, man? It's like I got a life to live here. Like, should I just sit in this damn chair for 12 hours a day?
it. Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, so noticing, first of all, I became, just speaking for me, I became disillusioned with all the striving, and I was like, well, what haven't I done, you know? And I did a lot of strategic stuff, um, is what appeared, and trying to figure things out and claiming. Um, and then there was a sort of just watching it all and noticing, because that was the only thing that I really haven't stopped and tried was just noticing, just noticing. And the more, for me, I can say, the more I noticed, the more I saw how spontaneous and autonomous it all was. There was no one there doing it. It was just, it seemed that way, you know.
So even the choosing whether to follow or to disregard the thought, that process of should I or shouldn't I is just another layer of the
Yeah,
conceptual mind.
there's nobody doing that. It's causeless. I mean, we could say it's from the conditioning that we've learned as human beings. Um, it's just like any other natural phenomenon, like a tree grows or an apple falls from a tree, you
But
know.
isn't there an unconditioned response or an unconditioned way of being like this is a classical like way of thinking and like let's say like Indian philosophy, right? That it's like there's reactions that are habitual and that arise from karma or like samskaras or like whatever direction you want to take it.
Mhm.
the way I think of it is it's from the mind connected to thoughts of other things, and it's almost like AI works. It's
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
mind knows, oh, these circumstances conspire to make me act this way, and then you go along with it. That's like bound in the realm of karma action, right?
Yeah, sure, we can call it karma. I mean, that's
Yeah,
I think
like
of
I don't care.
that. Yeah.
And but then there's another type of action, which is sort of like spontaneous action arising from like the mindless mind,
Okay.
where it's like one knows what to do or one is just doing, and
Okay.
it's not a reaction and a calculation or a response to previous conditioning.
So there's actually no difference. So
Ah,
here's the thing. We we make the naturally there's a making of these distinctions. And one day, for no reason at all, you will see that that distinction is made out of nothing and it's meaningless. It's an empty thought, and that's all it is, and it's already gone. So this is completely
that is like
yeah.
yeah. I've been like reading Huang Po for some reason, like even though it's not a great
Awesome.
translation, he's just awesome, but it's like he hits you with stuff that is so first of all, Hawkins like calibrates Huang Po for those who are into that at like over 900, which is absurd.
Oh, awesome. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
I love
literally the
Hawkins.
900s, like upper 900 kind of thing. Like
All
it's like
right.
one of the highest calibrations that like he's ever done. But like he loves Wong Po, and he admits that there's like faults in his translation. So I'm looking for a Thomas Cleary translation because I like Thomas Cleary and he's
Yeah.
done parts of it. Anyway, that's all preamble to say he says stuff like this, and this has been my like riddle for the last few days. This is the very first line of this uh, uh, all the Buddhas and all the sentient beings are nothing but the one mind besides which nothing exists, right? And he just goes on over and over and over saying that the mind in Buddha, if you are not absolutely convinced that the mind is the Buddha, and if you're attached to forms and practices and meritorious performances, your way of thinking is false and totally incompatible with the way. Isn't that freaking insane? And that's what you said, the mind and the unity of the mind in the Buddha. A Buddha being this sort of like higher state and mind just being like, I want to eat breakfast.
Hmm.
And I'm stuck saying there's a distinction, and you're sitting in a place saying mind and Buddha are the same thing.
Yeah, there's no distinction. We
There
won't
is to me.
yeah. Well, and that's it. That's also it. See? So
Oh, damn you. Yeah,
there
this is
really
you. This is your teaching. This is like what you're so good at.
is. All I
That
say is
like
that's it too.
including
That's it too.
everything. Yeah. No, like I remember the first time I talked to you, and I remember just standing in the kitchen and being like, oh, blah, blah. And I zoomed out, and it was like everything was under the umbrella of it. It was like, yeah, this is also it. And it just blew my mind because something that you said in like one of our first conversations, which was so powerful for me, was you were like, um, what would you have to do before you're allowed to be enlightened? Like, why isn't this just it? Like, why isn't
Yeah.
this it right now?
So it was not, it's never ever from the stories that I've heard and my own story, what you think it's gonna be like. What it's like is like it's kind of like a poof of smoke and it's just like psh, like it never was. It was um you think there's this state or an attainment or something is going to happen. I'm gonna become something. Something's gonna pop. There's gonna be a flash of light or something, right? But what happens is the thought that usually analyzes and tries to figure out where it is on a map is seen through completely, and there's nothing left to hold on to. There's nothing left to make conclusions. There's nothing left but unknowing. This is just unfathomable. It's a miracle. What is this? And then you're
But is
just
the
left
this
with that, just the mystery. Yeah. And the mystery is undivided already. Only thoughts divide. And if you can see through them and not believe them, then there's delusion is gone, but everything else remains.
so wow.
So it can be disappointing. It can be very, very funny, ironic. It can feel like a prank that you played on yourself as this
Mm.
cosmic everythingness or nothingness or whatever. So the point is the journey, the play, the dance. We want to be lost. That's why this is happening.
No, not anymore. It was fun for a while.
So I remember saying that too. I remember hearing teachers say, like, you don't really want to wake up. That's why not you're not awake, basically. And I was like, I am so offended. Excuse me. I think I know what I want. I think I know that I want this more than anything. And I really did believe that until hindsight is 2020. And I realized I actually didn't. And that's why I was dancing. I was running to figure it out so I didn't have to see it. I didn't want to see it.
What was the shift?
What do you mean?
Like there was
It's just
something
like
in
the
you that
fog
didn't
lift. You
quite
see through
want.
thoughts. That's all it is. You see, every thought is a thought. And a thought is a symbol of something else. You know, it's a sound. It's ephemeral. It doesn't mean anything. It's gone already. It's literally just a sound and a symbol that's gone already. It's meaningless. Really,
And what do
inherently
you
it
do?
is. Huh?
And what do you do?
That's the beauty of it. You know when it happens. It's immediate. It's inherently intelligent and it doesn't need concepts to understand it or decide what it's going to do. It's already doing what it's doing, you know.
Yeah, the concepts are blocking it.
But it is the concepts too at the same time. So it's
That's what I don't understand.
so it's
I
like
still
an
have this
energy.
duality.
It's an energy that appears that's innocent and it's expressing and it's pretending to get away from the whole so it can manipulate and analyze and judge and try to figure out and strategize the whole. It wants to control because it wants to be real. It wants to be separate. It wants to exist innocently. And that's what the whole is doing. It's pretending. And there's nothing to stop it. This is the way it plays. It plays stories. It loves stories. Are you okay?
Is anyone okay, Leela?
um, well, here's the beauty. No one is okay nor not okay. It's just what it is. Obvious and simple. Whether it's preferred or not, it's the miracle of knowing what it is to be when when nothing is actually, so it's paradoxical. But it gets to be both empty and full.
I've had those profound insights, but they leave me. And
Yeah, that
fundamentally, not one thing exists, and form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. And like I've had like moments like chanting the Heart Sutra at some retreat and stuff, and like dissolving into the nothingness and everything at oneness. And now I can't fucking decide if I should go to New York. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, what good did it do me?
But you'll see one moment it'll just occur to you. And if you kind of notice it, you're just like, I don't know how I made that decision. Like, because it's a complete mystery how things appear. Because I'll be like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that today, and I'll do something completely different. Has nothing to do with it's completely removed from the analyzing thoughts about it, what the body does.
So, wow, the old Yiddish expression, man plans and God laughs. is
Oh,
actually deeper than I gave it credit for.
oh my God, I love that. If you
Yeah,
want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
right. And it rhymes in Yiddish, but I'm not going to attempt it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why, but some of us, we're just, we have to know the existential truth, and it's like poking a tiger with a stick.
Hmm. What do you mean?
You know, the truth is that there is no truth. That's not what we want to hear.
We think of the ox herding parable
Yes.
where, he brings the ox home the first time and it destroys his house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And I think like, yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Nah, you don't need an analysis of the ox herding parable from me.
I love it. Yes, I know the whole thing, and well, I mean, I couldn't sit here and tell you it, but
Well, it
yeah, it does
destroys
seem
his
like a
herb
person,
garden.
huh?
It's
Oh,
like it destroys his livelihood also. It like tramples his herb garden that he was
yes.
like in the family business growing herbs for medicine. And it's like goodbye to that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. And then, eventually it's seen that nothing's ever lost or gained. But the process, I'm not going to deny the process. It is apparently real. This is the point. Like, the process is the point to me. I honor it. It feels like coming back to that, like arriving where you began, and in this beautiful miracle of seeming to be a human being, you know, you finally get to fall in love with that because you see it's empty and it's innocent. Nobody's doing it. You can't blame the phenomenon
the innocent part is very hard.
until it slaps you in the face, and then that's all you can see.
Well, that would be nice.
Well, when you see that you're not thinking your thoughts, see, that's what it is. We believe we're thinking our thoughts. We believe there's a little entity somewhere behind the eyes that's pulling levers and thinking thoughts.
Deciding to think thoughts.
Hmm. And then one day it's just so obvious that that is not what is happening, that that is an assumption that is believed, and that is all that that is. And then it's over. There ain't no going back. All you can see is innocence because everything is natural phenomenon, just like the seasons come and go. We just happen to get to experience what it's like to be agents for a while. How funny.
Could be nice.
It's what life's doing. When you argue with life, you lose.
Yeah.
You know.
Interesting.
Of course, that doesn't make any sense because who would argue with life, right? So it's like the pointers can be very confusing, um, because this can't be spoken because it's both and neither. Always. It's always yes and no because it's not meant to be known. So what else can you do but throw your hands up and laugh?
You can wring your hands and cry.
Right. That too.
Not a
See,
good choice. Yeah, not
see,
the right
using that
choice.
analogy, it was also the opposite. It was what you said too.
Huh. Yeah, well, that's what most people are doing, I think. I've been like really struck by how deeply people believe in narratives
Yeah.
like modern politics and stuff, and you see people who are so completely absorbed in the narrative that they believe is true, like capital T true.
Yeah.
And it's like, I see how idiotic and painful it is, and just how incredibly ignorant it is to think that your assembly of facts that you've put together is actually the final analysis,
Hmm.
you know? Like my collection of facts, uh, there's infinite facts out there, in perspective, whatever. And I see it so clearly in other people sometimes, and it's like maybe the entire brain is like that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
That like,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
Thought you were done. Sorry.
no, you go ahead.
Yeah,
No, I'm
so that
done.
that sort of like noticing of confirmation bias that we do as humans, right? We just do it. We confirm each other and we come to these conclusions and we believe them. It's not wrong and it never goes away either. So we'll always look for confirmation. You know, I still do. I still have friends we talk about the stuff that I'm talking about right now, and we try to like point, and then we try to break down each other's pointings because it can always be done because it's not in the words. So you just see that more and more and more until it's everywhere. It's just this wholeness expressing as it does. Impersonal, nobody's doing it. So you can laugh and you can actually love it for what it is. Like an innocent puppy or something.
It's fun.
Apparently. Something thinks so.
That's apparently, yeah,
I'm just
apparently, yeah, apparently.
yeah.
Well, apparently, wasn't that the kid? Well, apparently, you know what I'm talking about?
I try
Uh,
not to say that too much, but sometimes I just say it as a
yeah,
joke.
yeah, it's a good in joke. It's nice to be able to speak with somebody where the brain, after a little while of speaking with you, feels more like the thoughts are just sort of floating around some like central core that's not articulated, and the thoughts aren't like sticky and heavy and
Mm,
things in and of themselves. It's like they've lost their moorings, and it's more just like, yeah, like, existence exists and words exist, and like it's
mm.
not this like heavy
Yeah,
duty,
sticky, yeah.
sticky colliding.
Well,
Yeah.
stickiness can always arise even for so-called uh people who are clear. It does what it wants. It arises when it does. It still happens here. Sometimes I wake up and I have a crappy day and I'm anxious and I feel depressed. They don't tell you that when you're studying. Um,
But is it a different anxiety and depression
there's a
than it
subtle
used to be?
difference. Yes, there's a subtle difference that's very hard to describe. It seemed to be allowed already, because it already happened. So it's so in the moment and so immediate that nothing can be done about it. It's futile. So the continuum of comparing what this is to what it was before and what it could be is gone. So it's pure, full on what it is, like it or not. And that too is this, whether it's liked or not. So it's just a beautiful, wild roller coaster ride for nobody.
I did ex after I first spoke with you a couple times, I did experience that very profoundly of the thing moving through me just in its purity and how that was just a graceful motion of life itself rather than something wrong. Or I have a really interesting story actually.
Okay.
Um Well, it was partly sparked by seeing this meme. And there was like this good meme where there was just like this kid laying on the ground, just like catatonic, just like just like on the earth, just like head to the ground, body on the ground. And somebody had written something. They were like, this is like I don't know if this was in the meme or it was a comment, I don't remember, but it was just kind of like, yeah, this is like the natural wisdom of a child to like recalibrate when he feels overwhelmed and whatever. And you could see it that this kid had just kind of conked out and sought the ground and just like grounded and was just like a lizard, just like letting it flow through him. And then he'll jump up and go play.
Yeah.
I remember I have this rabbi who you know about who's kind of a big deal and certainly, you know, a highly evolved person, probably in the realm of sainthood. And the question is whether he's aware of Hawkins' realm of sagehood or if he's stuck in his sainthood, whatever, but that's there. He's an evolved person.
Hmm.
I once opened the door to his office, or somebody opened it or something, or I don't remember how I ended up there. And I opened the door, and there was like some type of like delegation there of people fundraising or needing a letter for who knows what it was. And I could see like this guy like sleeps like 2, 3 hours a night sometimes. And like he's a hardcore dude. And he was in his like fancy chair. Oops, hey, in his fancy chair. And he's like sitting there and he looked like a corpse. I mean, he was literally just like,
Jesus, overworked.
yeah, and that was my thought. And there were these guys saying like, "Oh, Rabbi, blah 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 blah," and he was just sitting there vibing, just like absolute corpse. Like he looked like Tales from the Crypt,
He
like
needs
that
to
guy
hire
sitting in his
me.
chair.
Yeah,
And I was like,
I would mother him if I was there. I'd be like, get out of here. He needs a nap.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and he has a son who's like his Gaba, that's like his assistant who like puts fences around him. But I'm sure they've had these conversations where like he's like I'm good. So whatever. So I saw that and I was like, God, I don't want to go down this path. Like this is fucking crazy. Like
Mm-mm,
this dude
mm-mm.
is he's like beating a dead horse. He's exhausted. Everybody wants things from him all day long. And like he doesn't sleep because he doesn't get stuff done during the day for his personal spiritual life. So he stays up through the night. Like I know his deal. And I was like, God, that's like terrible. Then one day, it happened about a week ago. I saw that. No, it happened about before I saw this little meme. I was in the kitchen and I was with my mom and I was supposed to packing for New York and all this shit. And it was like, God, I hate going to New York. And I was so overwhelmed and so stressed. And I was just like, drop it, just drop it. And I was like,
Just drop it. That's so funny.
and I just let myself be totally wiped. And I like laid on the couch and like everything got quiet, blah, blah, and it flowed through me. And then I had more energy,
Mm.
afterwards. I was like done. And I was like, I don't really feel like going to New York. But my mom was like, okay, I don't really care. And like, and I saw like what I had pitied before was not something to pity. He was just like really vibing and like the natural things where it's like, I'm exhausted and overworked, and these people are talking bullshit, and I don't really need to listen to them. So he had the courage to sit there in front of the whole room. There were probably like 15, 18 people in the room. And he was just kind of like, okay, like I'm checking out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was just like that kid laying on the ground, just like, I need to recalibrate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was, yeah. So to me, that was what you were talking about. And since then, I've allowed myself to have the courage to just do that in front of people. Like it's never been that extreme for me because I'm not in those situations, but it's like I've just been like, oh, something needs to move through me right now. And I just let it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that becomes more and more obvious. His catatonic state, I mean, he's obviously not always like that. He just
Yeah, I
needed
know.
he needed something. So this looks different for everybody. He obviously probably overworks himself.
Yeah. Or
Uh,
is overworked from outside.
hmm You know what I mean, just to put it in practical
Yeah,
language.
yeah, 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 totally.
Um, yeah, anything can happen at any time. Um,
But letting it ride instead of worrying about it and calibrating it and like, oh, I'll do this later. Like there's no such thing. You know?
yeah. And I used to say that belief thoughts don't like belief doesn't come anymore. But I saw through that. I saw that no, yeah, it can there can still be stickiness. Um, so it's very, very subtle to describe this, and there does seem to be a gradual deepening even now. So it does seem like the process is never ending.
I got a really good book you might be interested in. I just got it literally today. So I'm like sitting near my bookshelf. So this Jan Fraser lady who I really like, who went through an awakening experience apparently more than 20 years ago, because she wrote this book that I just got, Love Incarnate,
Oh,
20 years after awakening. And
nice.
she's writing, yeah, right? It's like that's the most goddamn fascinating subject I could ever think of. It's just like, yeah, 20 years ago this thing happened, and like this is how life is now. And
Hmm.
like, yeah, so I just thought you in particular might really enjoy that. I think you
Yeah.
and her could be like buddies. Like, okay. Anyway,
Thank you.
yes, the deepening. Yeah, no, it's just that idea of like the continuing to deepen. Like I hear that all over the place. And Jan in
Mhm.
particular talks about it a lot, that it's like
In
this
in
goes
certain
on.
in certain circles, that's a no-no. You don't say things like that because
Right.
it implies that this isn't already
Right.
or something. But the process is it. Samsara is nirvana. This is what nothing is doing. It's being everything. So you can't separate the two and make one a no-no. I mean, you can, but they end up integrating into this inseparable thing, the relative and the absolute. They are this amorphous thing that can't be separated.
Yeah, that's the point that you always seem to raise in me is that um dissolving into the sort of enlightened state is not the growing absence of the relative state. Like samsara is nirvana. Like that's
Yeah.
a heavy statement to be able to say.
Yeah, because as innocent apparent human beings, animals, we don't want to suffer and we want to be rid of that which we don't prefer. We want safety and comfort, creature comforts, and we want psychological comfort, ideas that are calming. Um, the creature comforts never go away, but the psychological comforts are ripped away. They fall apart like a foundation that crumbles. And there's no one to do anything about it. It's just a natural thing, like an apple falls off a tree.
Hey, but then what the hell, man? That gets me all the time. It's like, so then what? It's like I'm trying to make choices here. And
That
like
was one
maybe
of my
that's
first
my fault.
thoughts. So what do
Yeah?
I do now?
Huh.
There's nothing to do.
Huh.
I
I've
thought that.
had that. Okay. I get that when I'm blissed out in the kitchen and just like everything is fine. It's like, oh, I could sit in this chair for 2 or 3 more hours and like there's like everything's silent and there's just no problem. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, should I apply for a job? And like, how the hell do I decide that? I don't want a job. I have a job. What am I even talking about?
Yeah. Well, those decision sort of like train of thoughts, they still happen here. There can be I could do this, I could do that. And there could be like, I don't know. But it's very easily sort of moved past now because I know that the decision will be made and it will be obvious when it is made. Um,
Well,
it's
see,
always
that's why I'm not, I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't have full confidence in that because there have been lingering decisions that have been going on for years in my life.
Mhm.
I mean, that I just, it's like they're an open wound that just keeps getting reinfected.
Yeah,
And it's like there needs to be like a demarcation of like
yeah.
this thing called decision. And I seem to be incapable of it.
Mm, so the difference between being more spontaneous and things seeming to move quicker and more immediate. Like they move quicker, as in, like, if there's an intense emotion, it kind of moves through you really quick and it doesn't last for months like it would have before, for example, the difference between that sort of continuum not being so conscious. I don't know if you know what I mean, but it's just a more immediacy, like obviousness now or simplicity now. The difference between that and what you were describing, which I'm very also familiar with, is literally nothing. There is no difference. It's like two flavors of ice cream. They're both this. They're both valid. They're both allowed. One is not better than the other. They're equally
Mm,
this.
mm.
And we don't want to
So
hear that because we prefer, what we prefer.
but
Which is
God
also
prefers
this,
life.
you know what I mean? So
Mm,
it's this inescapableness that must be sort of faced. And then there is a giving up that no one does. So yeah, I don't know if that made sense, but
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, no, actually hmm, I think the only way to step into the giving up that no one does is to be around those who have embodied it or who embody it.
yeah.
But there is a resonance, like when you said that.
Yeah, so the belief that the way to go about this is XYZ. I'm going somewhere, I'm becoming something. Something's going to happen. Um, that just sort of fizzles out and nothing happens. I mean, that's
Yes.
one way of putting it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the seeking ends, but nothing happens. So it's like a fog lifts and there's a process of elimination, but there's nothing there to
It's not a
replace that.
culmination of the process, there's a dissolution of the
Yes,
process.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've seen that for sure in many smaller instances, but it's still like the big one.
Yeah, so the thought, like I'll give you an example. I had a thought that said when I was seeking, one day I'll wake up and it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to be special and everything will be grand and I'll just exude light, was what I believed. And what happened was that fell away and nothing happened. Like I just saw through that and there was the simplicity and obviousness of this, which is a miracle already. Uh,
You're a trip.
I I believe it. Yeah, you're talking to somebody who spent probably 25 years just like with the worst self-loathing ever. Like um it's a miracle I survived it really. And the contrast between that and the simplicity of whatever seems to be arising now and whatever that happens to seem like is a massive relief. It's lighter. It does feel lighter. And the whole contrast of the whole thing is beautiful. It's like a joke. You have to have the beginning, the middle, and the punchline to actually get the cosmic joke. You can't skip.
Can't just tell the punchline.
No, you wouldn't
Mm.
get it. And the process is the whole. So um I honor the process. I don't get
Holy wow.
but
I can't explain it. It's
what?
that Hebrew thing. I mean, it's there's this letter in the Hebrew name of God that has always perplexed me.
Mhm.
And it's very much like a process type of thing, a letter that sort of signifies process in work and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And it always bothered me, like that it was right there in the middle of this Hebrew name of God, because like the other letters are more about like being either immanent or transcendent being. And then meanwhile, there's this letter that's like, I had always conceptualized as sort of like the path towards those things.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you're sort of dissolving the paradox. You're sort of dissolving the conflict between process and being,
Yeah, because
isness,
yeah, the story doesn't
like
end.
Dogen.
The story, the getting older, the maturing apparently psychologically, all of that goes on. Nothing changes and everything is different.
Like I used to really not like Dogen or Dogen or however you say. Like you know who I'm talking about? The
I remember the
Japanese
name, but
Zen. Yeah.
yeah,
He wrote
I've
the
studied it. I've forgotten it.
Shobo Genzo, Shobo. I like used to know how to pronounce it too. Like I looked it up, but Shobo
My brain has
Genzo,
like dumped
like
all
the
that
tr
information.
treasury of the true Dharma eye. So like one of the sort of godfathers of Japanese Zen. And I
Mhm.
didn't like him because I was much more to like the radical sudden enlightenment, like the Chinese schools. And he was much more like gentle. And he had this statement that used to really bother me. We would say like meditation is itself enlightenment. Like showing up to the temple and playing the and I was like, no, you have to get over enlightenment. Like
No,
no,
no. We don't want to hear that because we want something
no.
better. We want something better. That's all
Yeah.
it is. That's literally all it is. And we don't want to hear it because we don't want to be disappointed because we want something better than this. But this is already exactly what it is without whatever thoughts that are putting labels on it, saying this is acceptable, this is not acceptable, it shouldn't be this way, it should be another way. That's the suffering.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So life just sucks and that's okay.
Well,
You got
here's
to
the thing. But
get up
yeah,
in the cold and go to the meditation hall. That's also
yeah,
enlightenment.
and you
Like I
can
don't want
acquire
that. I want
you
to leave the monastery.
good.
Is that unreasonable?
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, and that's the sort of thing that we have to come face to face with, you know.
Hmm,
That's why some people seek for decades, naturally and beautifully, because it's already this. They
hmm.
tiptoe around because it's fun.
It's not fun. It was fun. I've eaten enough of the all-you-can-eat buffet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Ready to walk out of the restaurant.
Yeah, meditation is it. You know, being a junkie on the side of the
Right.
road is it. Um, it's allowed to be wild and chaotic and all these different flavors.
Frustrating.
Absolutely. Anything and
Do,
everything.
do you experience frustration? Well, you have a child. You probably
I
experience frustration.
absolutely do experience frustration. Yeah. The body reacts. You know, the psyche even reacts. Naturally, it does what it does. You know,
This is like
naturally.
your fundament. If I had to say like your fundamental teaching that always hits the mark, and that every time we get to this point where it's like zoom out and everything is included in it.
It is
Like
already all
you don't,
inclusive.
yeah, you don't have to fiddle around until you get the right arrangement of experiences and thoughts and feelings, and then it clicks and you're enlightened. Rather, zoom out and zoom out and zoom out, and these blocks that aren't quite fitting are existing within the enlightened
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, it is. It is like that. It's like there's a pendulum, but you just get
Hmm.
above it and you're like,
Hmm.
oh, it's the same thing. It's not like left or right. It's this.
Totally.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and then, you know, the whole world wakes up and you see they were always awake the whole time. You know, there's no such thing as lost or a problem. That's a thought. It doesn't actually exist as a problem.
Is the world though progressing towards goodness?
It's a surprise. Nobody knows. I don't know. I'd like to think so.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it it doesn't make sense to human mind otherwise, but whatever.
Well,
But
look at
like
you can
what
look
I
at
mean is
nature. The
okay,
evolution, how things have
yeah.
evolved and adapt. It seems hopefully we're learning from all our craziness.
Well, like you having gone through this experience, like you are living in a psychological state that is okay from a human perspective, preferable to the previous psychological space that you inhabited.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's preferable from a
Right.
personal, you know, perspective.
But that's also an absolute perspective to a certain extent. It's
Absolutely.
like
It's completely
the
valid.
the absolute is experiencing this preference, and it's this as preferable. It's experiencing this as preferable. So like the absolute that runs through all things would be moving things towards that preference of the absolute,
It seems that, yeah,
and then the world will be better.
it does seem that way.
People
I'm
get
not
really
gonna lie.
negative.
I mean, I'm open to always
Yeah,
being
good.
wrong, but I'm not against like making
Don't
theories.
Well, it's yeah. I mean, it's silly, but it's like, but like Hawkins really helps me with this because I think it does matter. It's not necessarily just philosophizing. It's like people really get in ruts. Like, especially like the internet is a horrible place, and people get in these negativity spirals, and they really believe their stories that like the world's so bad and everything's so. And when you read Hawkins, he's like, dude, compared to 800 years ago. It's like, wow, it's amazing. Like
Yeah.
people used to like invade neighboring villages, rape and pillage everything, burn it to the ground, and that was the way it was. And that
Yes.
was
Yeah.
sort of accepted as a way. Now things happen still, but there's global outcry and there's like a sense of we don't do things that way anymore.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? There's
Yeah.
less
It's definitely
clubbing
getting
someone
better.
over the head. Yeah.
It seems
And
to.
I think I think that is more than just theorizing. I think it prepares the ground of the mind to allow itself to be okay.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with comfort wherever it may appear.
Don't dismiss my messianic vision as comfort.
Oh no, I'm with you though. I'm the same. I'm on the same
I
page.
know,
I
I
hope
know.
I have all kinds of hope for the world. And when you look at a human, they seem to mature, right? And
Yeah,
then one day they just die. But
which is awesome.
there it can be a beautiful maturity, you know, and you can compare nature and the maturity of a human to society itself. It does seem to progress until the sun blows up. No.
That's just this also.
I know. I was just messing with you.
I don't know. I don't really care. I'm only gonna die once. Like if I die in a mass casualty event where the sun explodes, that's no more tragic to me than, dying of old age. It's like it's one death. It's like,
Yeah, tragedy is one of those beautiful things like beauty. It's in the eye of the
yeah.
beholder, but it doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, yeah. And also the transmutation of something overwhelmingly tragic into just it like takes you outside the scope of like human evaluation where you just go like wow. So, and Eckhart Tolle talks about this.
Yeah,
Eckhart
yeah,
Tolle he talks about watching a movie and like there's some extraordinary tragedy and how it just transmutes and he's like laughing and he's like, "Oh my God,
yes,
like it's beyond the potential of humans to understand this." Like,
yeah.
wow, you know?
So it's like,
Yeah.
really, if a comet hit Earth or something horrible and it just obliterated everybody, it literally wouldn't matter.
This is
But
like we've
at the
like come
same
full
time,
circle to me sitting in college and just smoking weed in the dorm room and be like, if a comet would hit the Earth, it like really doesn't even. Anyway, it's
I
like the
mean,
more evolved version of that.
yeah, I don't think I'm high.
No, 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 no. I wasn't accusing you. I was
Yeah.
um okay, if a comet hit the Earth, yeah,
So, but at the same time, there's this wild, chaotic freedom to see an event, let's say a comet or a volcano, from a certain
or a volcomet.
from a certain finite perspective. And from that very limited a fragile perspective, this means something. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it can be this drama that's played out just naturally and like an epic trilogy or something.
Yeah.
And that is a miracle that that can occur, you know what I mean? In this that is actually void of meaning. You know what I mean? So,
I saw this holy man. I'm reluctant to bring it up, but not totally. Like I saw this holy man talking about the Holocaust.
mm,
Very, very holy man. And his whole life is the Holocaust. I mean, he's in America because of the Holocaust, his family, and he
mm,
was talking about it. And he started like lighting up. And he was like, I mean, he's like, it's like, it's insane. He's like, it's like incomprehensible. Like and it was like, it was almost like, I hate to say this, but it was like almost like the greatest joy running through him. It was like he couldn't even fathom the insanity of the drama of life, you
yes.
know? And he
Yeah.
was just totally lit up by it. And it's like Michael Singer's teacher turning to him and saying, "Don't you love when people yell at you? There's so much energy, you know?" It's like when you get past the taste, it tastes good or it tastes bad. It's just energy.
Hmm.
And the
So,
Holocaust was a lot of energy coming down
yeah.
to Earth. It
Yeah,
was a lot of
it's
energy. And he
definitely
was like,
something. Yeah.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
you get past the good and bad, you spit
So,
the apple back out.
but you get to have both to me.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he's horrified too by the thought
Uh,
of um
You're talking to people where it's like you don't have to say like, I believe that it was bad. It's like, okay, we know that. And then you're free to like actually experience it, and like yeah,
yeah, you have to
yeah.
watch who you express.
Right.
Um
That's why I was nervous to bring it up, but nobody knows who I'm talking about,
so
and they don't
for
know me either.
example, there could be this tragedy where a hurricane hits and people are devastated and you're
Hmm.
not there, so you get to kind of look at it from afar and not experience the fear and things like that. And then society comes together and rebuilds like an ant bed that's been kicked. You know, people come together, they help each other, and it's so beautiful that you almost feel sadistic for admiring the whole thing. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And I've had to hold my tongue on many things that I don't see as terrible tragedies because to the people involved, they are.
Yeah, my beautiful husband's mother died in a tragic car wreck. She was already dying, she had cancer, but he loved her and she was lovely to me and a beautiful woman. He was distraught and sobbing, and he's 20 years older than me, a grown man, very strong man, and his mother died and he was weeping and he was just pure mourning, and I could see nothing but beauty in the whole thing. Um,
That happened when my grandmother died and my father. Yep. You have to be careful.
of course, I comforted him in every way that I could fathom, um, and just held space, when he was crying and stuff. But I was like, the beauty of the contrast of having someone you love and then not having them. My God, you can't have one without the other. They make each other. The polarities, they make each other. You can't see the beautiful light of a candle when it's directly beside the sun. You can't admire it. You have to put
But
it in a dark void to admire it.
but let me turn this on you because this is a thought that's troubled me since I was a child. You're saying you can't have one without the other. You have a family and a love for your husband that can't be expressed to somebody who hasn't been in a long-term relationship and grown with the person.
Mhm,
Your husband's going to die.
mhm.
Isn't there ever such a thing as joy and love without having to pay the price for it at some point?
Absolutely not. They
Well,
make
then what the hell, man?
yeah, they make each other. So if I said
Well, why get into a relationship then?
it's better to have loved and lost than never to have,
Okay, I know. It's
you
easy to
know?
say when you're not in the loss cycle.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I experienced the loss cycle, and there has to be some way of living that's not on this seesaw of happy and sad.
Yeah. So the seesaw continues, but there is a
Hmm.
perspective, a different angle, so that you're not in the middle. There's a
On
place
it.
in the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And in the middle, you can see the futility of the constant fluctuations. Um, and they're still going on and they're still allowed and they're still perceived and they affect you, but um
There's a great, I wish I had my copy of I Am That, Nisargadatta. I have it packed up because I'm half packed to leave and half packed to stay.
okay, I love
But
Nisargadatta.
he's like the best. You
Yeah.
like can't beat him. And I wish I had it to look up, but there's a student that's pounding him on this, and he says like, I'm tired of the up and down. Like there must be some type of like unalloyed, and that's the word. So you could search your PDF and
Oh, I
find
love that word.
unalloyed. Yeah, right. He's like, there must be some unalloyed goodness that's not always in contrast with some badness. Like there has to be some fundamental substance of good that's not a debt that I'm taking on to experience it, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
What did Nisargadatta
And
say? Mhm.
I wish that I had it with me to tell you because I'm not him.
Oh,
But
leave me
to
hanging.
be continued. Go find the PDF and search for unalloyed
Okay.
pleasure. It's not like it's going to give you I mean it's a Nisargadattaism,
Yeah.
but he sort of says like, see if I can remember somewhat, but he essentially like always says you're looking in the wrong realm for your pleasures,
Mm.
right? That there is and is, that the I itself is inherently non-dualistically at peace and joyful.
Yeah, so the highest bliss doesn't feel grand or anything. The highest bliss includes the horror and the beauty
Mm. I
together.
don't want that. I want the
I
feeling
know.
that I get in meditation and just all day while I'm eating breakfast
You
and
would get
making
bored.
clear decisions and helping people. I would get bored. I've heard that before.
So if I said, wow, that's really hopeless. I'm just, wow, I feel hopeless. I would have to know what hope is to even say that, right?
But this is like, but come on, Leela, like, do you know that like when I was depressed in high school? Sorry, am I interrupting you? Do you want to
No, no,
finish?
I'm no, you're not.
Before I shoot it out of the air with my cynicism,
No,
joylessness.
I'm just
No, like
enjoying.
I was like, yeah, me too. This is really fun. Thank you so much. Um, when I was in high school, I went through like a major depression, like really the only one that I've ever been through in my life, thank God. It was like severe enough that I flushed it out of my system for the most part. Till this girl broke my heart, but that's another story.
Mhm.
But I had this teacher I wasn't particularly close with. I was thinking about this today, so it's funny it's coming up. And he came up to me and he was like, it takes the bad days to recognize the good ones and like blah blah. And I remember just being like, I think you're full of shit. I was like, man, like that can't be the answer. Like
Mhm.
there's something else. It's not just like, well, the bad ones let you know what the good ones are. It's like, no, there's such a thing as a happiness that doesn't need a contrast for me to know that it's happiness.
But you see, the disturbing feeling that comes up, nobody's doing it, right? So you're
Right.
disturbed by the idea that everything is balanced to the point that there's um
Within the matrix of space and time, but there's something outside the matrix of space and time that's not happy versus sad. That's
yeah,
something else.
and that is This.
Ah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
and your this.
Well,
If I made merchandise for you, it would just say this. That would be your
all right, I need a better word.
yeah, no,
I'll
no,
just
no, it's perfect. You're look,
I'll just
you
do
and the
this.
Zen master. Yeah, that's even worse. It'd be like, it's just
Oh my God,
like your
help.
new gang sign. What's up, Lilo?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'll make you a shirt with that on it.
But you know what I'm
Uh,
talking about.
I
The
do.
only thing there is to know.
Mm. No, it's as profound as it is common. Like it's extremely profound. So I have to just go there with you. Hold on a second. Start over again what you were saying. I
So
was saying the
so the
seesaw happy
beauty
set. Okay.
the beauty is that it doesn't need to be seen to be what it already is. And nothing will force it to be seen but itself. It does what it wants, apparently. It loves to know what it's like to be lost and find itself. It loves the surprise, hide and seek. It likes the punchline.
Loves the redemption arc.
Yeah. And that's just a way of saying something that can't be said, you know. We have this
Is your
non-dual language in it. It always misses the mark. I mean, this duality language, and it always misses the mark. It never tells the truth. Um, I wish I could say
but
that
it
in a
is
better way, but it's
it is a carrier for feeling though,
oh, it's beautifully practical, beautifully practical. And
but
it
not true in
allows
and
the
of
story.
itself.
It allows the whole drama, but it never is true. It's not true. When I say pass me the salt, like it doesn't refer to anything. It just
Didn't
doesn't.
eat salt.
But I mean, if I want salt on my food, I may want to,
Didn't eat salt.
So it's paradoxical. So it's not one or the other. One is not bad, one is not good. They need each other. Duality is non-duality.
Nirvana is samsara. Bro, I have like heard that statement and read that statement and like sometimes intellectually understood what they're getting at with
Mhm.
that statement. I know it's a fundamental truth, but shout out to Leela Muse. I've never had a living person say that to me who understood it. So thank you. Landmark.
I
No, but that's a big
remember,
deal.
I feel like,
Samsara is nirvana.
yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry. But
No, I'd like to hear.
I remember hearing that and being like, what? And I would just strain and just try so hard to understand conceptually what the hell they are talking about. And it didn't feel great, you know? I wanted to understand. And I mean, that's the plight of the seeker, I suppose, but
That's me with the mind is Buddha lately. That's
yeah,
been brainworming me.
it's not conceptual. It's an insight that it cannot be put into words.
Right? That's why it's a koan, that's just my
Yeah.
puzzle. And it's like that sense of frustration is sort of the only way that you can work on it. And I think that sitting in the frustration, at some point it blossoms and there's a non-conceptual answer. I mean, I've had that on smaller scale things, but something like nirvana is samsara, the mind is Buddha, like those are like fundamental
That's it.
tension points.
Absolutely. And then that's when you're like, well, now what do I do once you see that? But
Get a job.
right. Or whatever. Uh yeah. Go watch true crime stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Anything good on that. I've been watching Muji. That's my true crime.
Okay. Yeah.
I love Muji. But I'd love to just watch true crime with a clear conscience. I do. I watch ska videos from the 90s.
Oh, nice.
Erase that.
So I would just kind of like what I did, what happened here was I was like, okay, it's not in the thoughts. I'm gonna stop trying to figure it out. So what else is there? Well, there's the visceral, uncomfortable sensation of what it's like to not know anything. That's what's there, the free fall. And it can become intense at times, especially without a thought that pulls you away from it, that's dissociating, that's trying to comfort you and tell you, hey, we know what's going on. We'll just try this and that'll work and we'll be on our way. So it's a reorientation where thoughts are not a source of information. They're these fleeting symbols, and that's all they are. And the inherent intelligence of life has always been here. It's just been drowned out by a belief that the thoughts know what the hell they're talking about.
Holy crap. I have thoughts are not a source of information.
No. Are you breathing right now? Who's doing that? Thoughts are no different than breath. And when you see that, it's going to rock your world. You can't unsee it. And the only thing you can do to see it is just notice, you know? And that sounds like something you can do, but you know what I mean. That can happen. Noticing can happen.
Thoughts are not information, contain no information, are not. I have a way of I have a way of illustrating that, which if I talk it out will help me retain it a little bit.
Okay.
For the first time I started fooling around with AI because my mother has some court cases. She like is being called as like an expert witness. She
Mm-mm.
has hundreds of pages of depositions to comb through and medical records and all this crap that she can go through so she can come give her opinion on a medical malpractice case. Okay,
Right.
fine. So she's like getting behind because she like wants to be retired and she's 75 and just wants to like hang out with her sister in California and like not do this stuff so much anymore. But she's got this case. She's telling me, and I said, Mom, you can feed that shit into AI these days. I don't say shit in front of my mother, only in front of the whole internet. Like you can feed that into AI and like you can ask it to pull out disparities in testimony or like whatever. She's like,
Oh.
and I was like, she's like, really? And I'm like, I hope so. I think so.
You see that too?
Oh yeah, the power went out, buddy. I'm sorry.
It's back on, but like what happened?
Uh the power went out.
Okay, love you.
Okay, love you.